I've got a story for you this week, but this story starts with some sad news. One of Jesus' followers, called James, had actually been killed by King Herod, and Peter, another of Jesus' followers, had been put in prison too.
In fact, Herod kept Paul under really close watch. 16 soldiers were guarding him. 16 soldiers for one man. And on top of that, Peter was even chained to two of them so that he definitely couldn't escape. This story already looks pretty hopeless, doesn't it? But do you know what? The church were busy praying for Peter with all their hearts. It was a really quiet, dark night. So quiet you could hear some animals scurrying around even though you couldn't see them. Everyone was fast asleep. Peter was sleeping soundly, and so were the guards either side that he was chained to. King Herod was snoring away in his big fancy bed in the palace. He was having sweet dreams about tomorrow morning when he was planning to bring Peter out of prison and put him on trial. When, bam, out of nowhere, in the prison cell, an angel appeared. He shook Peter awake and said, "Quick, get up, get your clothes and shoes on." It took Peter a few seconds to realise that he could get up and get his clothes and shoes on because his wrists didn't have chains on. The chains had fallen off. "Now get on your coat," said the angel. "Right, ready? Okay, follow me." So Peter got his coat on and followed the angel past the first set of guards, then the second set of guards, then past some big iron gates that amazingly opened to let them through, and then down a street. Then at the end of the street, the angel suddenly disappeared. Blinking in shock, Peter looked round and realised that this hadn't just been a dream. He'd just walked straight out of prison. He was free. Peter smiled a big smile, not just because he was happy that he was free, although that was probably part of it, but because he was sure that God was the one who had sent his angel to rescue him. In that moment, he knew how much God cared for him.
I wonder where you're most excited to go to as soon as lockdown is lifted. Lots of my friends have been really excited about going to McDonald's because that's opened up this week and that's been very exciting for them. I can't wait to go back to church and see lots of my Christian friends who I haven't seen for ages and give them lots of hugs. And actually, you know what? Peter had the same idea too. The first place he decided to go was to a house where some of his Christian friends were, and although he didn't know it, there were lots of them gathered together, praying.
Peter tapped on the door. The servant girl, Rhoda, came to open it. She was just in the hallway when she heard Peter's voice and gasped. She was so happy. She couldn't believe it. In her excitement, she didn't even open the door but ran back to the main room and cried, "Peter's at the door." "What?" "No, he's in prison, Rhoda. You're not thinking right," they replied. "No, he's really out there. I heard his voice," she insisted. They glanced at each other, not sure what to think. "Maybe it's his angel or a ghost," they suggested. Peter's knocking was louder this time. Eventually, they went to go and see if it was really him. As the door swung round to reveal him standing there, they were astonished. Their jaws dropped. "Peter, it's you! What are you doing here?" Peter motioned for them to be quiet and simply told them to tell all the other Christian brothers and sisters about what God had done for him that night.
This story started with bad news, but ended with good news. Sometimes things can look really hopeless, can't they? And we have no idea what to do to help. Lockdown's been a bit like that, hasn't it? It's been really hard because we've not been able to go out and go to school and see our friends, and we don't know when it's going to end. We don't know what to do to help, and there's not much we can do to help. But we can always pray, you know. The Christians in this story are a really good example of that. Praying is actually sometimes the biggest and best thing you can do to help. Maybe you know someone who's going through a tough time, maybe one of your friends, maybe someone you know in church, or maybe you're just going through a tough time. You're missing your friends and feeling a bit lonely. Me too. But why don't you pray about it? Because this story shows that God always hears our prayers and sometimes can answer in ways that we would never expect.
Blink, look round. Shock, blink and look round in shock. That's nice. I don't get why I didn't do a victory dance after coming out of prison. Oh wait, where's the door? Stop. We're doing so well! I'm sorry, but yeah, I think we're done.